Have you ever noticed how loud the world has become? Every man is talking, posting, shouting his opinions, yet deep inside, most are terrified of silence. We fill every empty space with noise because silence exposes us. It shows the weakness we try to hide, the insecurity, the fear of being unseen, unheard, forgotten. But there's a truth most men never face. The loudest ones are often the weakest. The strong don't need to prove their strength. They don't fight for attention. They command it. Quietly. Think about it. When was the last time you sat in silence without reaching for your phone? When was the last time you faced your own thoughts without running from them? Weakness doesn't always scream. Sometimes it hides behind constant talking, constant explaining, constant noise. And the reason most people never evolve is simple. They never stop long enough to listen. There are 3 words that can change this. 3 words that can transform weakness into silence and silence into power. Words used by the Stoics, men who led armies, built empires, and faced death with calm eyes. Words that can still your mind and make others listen without you raising your voice. Because real mastery isn't found in speaking more. It's found in saying less, but meaning every word. So stay with me till the end. Once you understand these 3 words, you'll never look at silence the same way again. Most men today are trapped in noise. Not the kind that fills the streets, but the kind that fills the mind. The endless scroll of opinions, the constant chase for validation, the quiet fear of being invisible in a world obsessed with being seen. We've mistaken motion for progress, attention for respect, and noise for strength. Every moment we fill with distraction is another moment we run from ourselves. It starts early. You wake up, check your phone, compare your life before you've even taken your first breath of morning air. You scroll through filtered smiles, edited success, fake confidence, and deep inside, something whispers that you're behind. That whisper turns into panic, and instead of facing it, you silence it with more noise, music, messages, meaningless talk. Because being alone with your thoughts feels like drowning. Men today are exhausted not from work, but from pretending. Pretending to be confident when they're unsure. Pretending to be strong when they're crumbling. Pretending to be unbothered when they're silently breaking. We've built entire lives around distractions just to avoid confronting our weakness. And here's the truth. You can't fix what you refuse to face. Every time you avoid silence, you feed your weakness. Every time you speak just to fill the air, you reveal the noise inside. The Stoics understood this long before us. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." Yet most men today are miles away from calm. They can't sit in silence for 5 minutes without craving escape. The harsh reality is this: the world doesn't need more talkers. It needs men who can be still. Because stillness isn't absence, it's control. And silence, when mastered, becomes the loudest voice in the room. The Stoics saw silence not as emptiness, but as power. They understood that the mind, when trained to endure stillness, becomes unshakable. Marcus Aurelius, a man who ruled an empire yet struggled daily with his own thoughts, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Those words weren't just philosophy, they were armor. In the chaos of battle and politics, silence was his discipline. Seneca warned of another kind of weakness, the weakness of restless tongues. He said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." And he was right. Most of our pain is self-inflicted, born from overthinking, overreacting, and oversharing. We talk ourselves into anxiety, argue our way into confusion, and confess our peace away to anyone who will listen. Stoicism teaches restraint, the ability to speak less but mean more, to act, not announce. Epictetus went further. He said, "Be silent for the most part, or speak merely what is necessary." To him, silence was not suppression, it was sovereignty. The man who controls his tongue controls his fate. When you learn to hold your words, you learn to hold your emotions. You stop reacting like a slave to every insult, every provocation, every spark of irritation. You become deliberate, calm, measured, dangerous in your composure. Modern men have forgotten this ancient strength. We broadcast every thought, chase every argument, and drown in our own opinions. The Stoics would call this spiritual noise, the clutter of an undisciplined mind. Real silence isn't the absence of sound, it's the presence of control. It's the space where your mind sharpens, your focus returns, and your soul breathes. Stoicism reframes silence from weakness to weapon. It teaches you to conserve your energy, to let your presence speak louder than your words. Because the man who can be silent in chaos doesn't lose control, he commands it. And when the world tries to provoke him, he simply looks back, unshaken, untouchable, and still. Stoicism doesn't ask you to suppress emotion, it asks you to master it. It's not about becoming cold or robotic, but calm in the fire. The framework is simple, yet brutally effective. Perception, action, and will. Perception, how you see the world. The Stoic learns to pause before reacting. You don't label everything as good or bad. You see it as it is. A colleague insults you, that's information, not injury. A relationship ends, that's an event, not devastation. Life becomes less of a storm and more of a pattern you can navigate. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily, writing down every frustration until it lost its power. You can do the same. When your emotions rise, write, don't react. Action, what you do about it. Stoicism is not passive, it's control through choice. You choose integrity over impulse, discipline over distraction. When your phone vibrates during work, the Stoic in you decides whether it deserves attention. When your partner provokes you in anger, you breathe instead of retaliate. That pause, that tiny moment of control, is where freedom lives. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." Because courage isn't just facing pain, it's refusing to be owned by it. Will, the inner strength to endure what you cannot change. Life will humble you, people will betray you, opportunities will vanish, plans will collapse. But the Stoic doesn't drown, he adapts. He doesn't waste energy wishing things were different. He uses that energy to stay unbroken. Epictetus was a slave, yet his spirit remained unconquered. Why? Because he understood that no one can chain the will. In modern life, this framework is your defense system. In business, it keeps you from emotional decisions. In relationships, it prevents you from losing yourself in chaos. In personal growth, it grounds your ambition in patience. Stoicism doesn't promise comfort, it promises command. And if you follow this path, you'll realize that silence, restraint, and discipline aren't signs of weakness. They are proof that you've risen above the noise and built a fortress inside your mind. Here's the truth. Most men today are trapped, and they don't even see the walls closing in. They think they're free because they can speak, post, react, and express. But they're prisoners of noise, slaves to the endless craving for validation. Every scroll, every like, every argument online feeds a quiet desperation. Notice me, approve me, agree with me. It starts small. A notification lights up your screen, dopamine hits. You post something, people react. You feel relevant, but soon you need more. More attention, more praise, more proof that you matter. And without realizing it, you've handed over control of your peace. The opinions of strangers start dictating how you feel. Their silence becomes your anxiety. Their criticism becomes your insecurity. The trap deepens when you start performing instead of living. You chase success not because it fulfills you, but because it looks good. You speak not to express truth, but to win validation. You wake up already behind, comparing your life to filtered illusions. Every minute, the noise grows louder. Every thought becomes a reaction, not a choice. And here's the cruel irony. The more you chase validation, the weaker you become. Because dependence on approval kills strength. You stop building yourself and start building an image. You stop living with purpose and start living for applause. Marcus Aurelius warned against this centuries ago. It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own. The modern man isn't broken because the world is cruel. He's broken because he forgot how to be silent. He's lost in reaction, addicted to noise, and afraid of stillness. That's the trap, a world where you can express everything except mastery, where you can say anything but can't stay silent. And that silence is exactly where power hides. There is another way, a quieter one, a harder one. The path the Stoics walked, not to escape the world but to master themselves within it. The Stoic doesn't react to everything. He observes, he pauses, he lets the noise pass through him like wind through an open field. He doesn't rush to defend his pride or prove his worth. Because he knows, silence is not weakness, it's control. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." That's not just advice, it's strategy. The Stoic listens to life. He studies his impulses. He watches the rise of anger, the sting of insult, the pull of ego, and instead of reacting, he breathes. That's the moment of power. In silence, the modern man discovers his edge. While the world screams for attention, he remains calm, unreadable, unshaken. He speaks when it matters, not when it's easy. And when he does, his words carry weight, because they come from discipline, not emotion. Think of Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, surrounded by chaos, betrayal, and war. Yet his journal, Meditations, is filled with calm reflections, not complaints. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the Stoic way. You can't control the world, but you can command your response. In a time when everyone rushes to speak, the Stoic waits. In a time when everyone wants to be seen, he builds himself unseen. He doesn't compete in noise, he dominates in silence. Silence is his weapon, discipline his armor, and control his throne. He doesn't prove his strength, he lives it. That's the alternative. A life where you no longer react to the world, but respond to it with clarity. Where peace is not given by others, but built by you. And when you walk that path long enough, something powerful happens. The world stops controlling you because the man who can remain silent in chaos cannot be broken. In the end, it all comes down to 3 words. Simple, but they demand everything from you. Observe, endure, stay silent. That's the discipline the world forgot. The art of restraint in a time of reaction. The courage to stand still while others chase noise. The strength to stay calm when your ego screams to fight back. Because silence isn't the absence of words, it's the presence of power. It's knowing you could respond, but choosing not to. It's realizing that your energy is too valuable to waste on things beneath your purpose. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That's what silence is, the transformation from talk into being, from chaos into control, from noise into meaning. So this week, say less, react less. When someone provokes you, don't reply. When life tests you, don't complain. When fear whispers, don't argue. Just breathe, observe, endure. Watch what happens when you stop feeding the noise. The world begins to quiet down, your thoughts sharpen, your focus returns. And in that silence, you'll find strength you never knew you had. Because mastery isn't about controlling others, it's about mastering yourself. And the man who learns to remain silent when others break becomes unshakable. 3 words, simple, but they demand everything. Carry them, live them, and let the silence speak for you. What are your views on this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I will personally read all of your comments. And if you seriously want to level up in life, don't forget to show some love by hitting the like and subscribe button. Stay strong. Until next time.